I want to thank all the good wishes, prayers, and positive vibes that I was sent regarding my eye surgery that I had on Monday. So thank you very much. So how did it go? I can see clearly now, the rain has gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Hey Booktube, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I'm Marilyn Maya, and I'm glad you're here. I'm the baby boomer booktuber. Anyway, so what did I finish in books? Not much because of my eye problem. So what happened was I had 2 cataract operations last year. And what happens sometimes, I don't know if it's the body's immune system, but cells grow and they cloud the artificial lens. So so I couldn't see again. I was completely in the dark. At least with my right eye, which is my dominant eye. So my left eye was doing all the work, and that doesn't, bode well for reading. I can tell you that I'm very happy. It's like a miracle, and I feel very blessed. Anyway, what did I finish in March? Only one book that I talked about already. But I can't help but mention it again. It's The Wall by Mary Roberts Rinehart. And this is jam-packed, never a dull moment. It's told in the first point of view, which I appreciate. And it's about Marcia, who, her sister-in-law comes back after being, divorced from her brother for many years. And she causes a lot of trouble to her detriment. And that's all I'll say about it. Except that I read this with Kevi from Say Kevi, and we had a wonderful time. It was so exciting. I don't think she's known, Mary Roberts Rinehart is known as the American Agatha Christie. And though she's very different, because we're in a different continent, but it's also the way she writes is different. And she was writing as a letter in a way. She was telling the story of what happened last summer. So I liked the way she came back after each part and gave like a little foreshadowing about what's going to happen. And it was very exciting. I really enjoyed it, and I recommended 5 stars. Last time my last video was regarding the Women's Prize for Fiction. Now, I don't read many, as I said in the video, I don't read many new releases. And I'm not a big contemporary fiction reader, though I'm not against it. But I couldn't really find much in the women's long list for fiction, but I did find 2 at my library. And the first one was The Sentence by Louise Erdrich. And this is my first attempt at reading Louise Erdrich, who's a very well-known writer on Booktube. And I haven't finished the book. I don't know if I'm going to finish it. The beginning was very unlikely. I didn't believe it. It had to do with a woman who is so immature or, that she transports a dead body full of drugs and ends up in the woman's prison. I didn't believe that part. It seems to be going to settle down now a little bit, and she starts working in a bookstore. She began to, the narrator started to read in prison. She got a long prison sentence, and supposedly she didn't know what she was doing, but I didn't buy it. However, the writing is really beautiful. let me just read you one sentence that I loved. I was at a perilous age when I committed my crime. Although in my 30s, I still clung to a teenager's physical pursuits and mental habits. I really related to that part, though I don't think I would have thought of doing drugs or transporting any dead bodies, and I never was in prison. Her writing is beautiful, but, is writing enough? Is beautiful writing enough to feel connected to a book? I'm not sure, but I'm going to try to read on. The second book from the Woman's Prize is another one I'm having trouble with, and it's Sorrow and Bliss from Meg Mason. This is a debut. And one thing it said was it's brutal, tender, funny, and I saw myself here. I saw the people I love. I'm changed by this book. I read a little bit of it, and maybe the reason I couldn't connect to it is I didn't see the people that I love or know. Not that that usually stops me from liking a book. It's been compared to Where Are You, Bernadette, which I read and it was okay. I didn't love it. And, I'm not going to go, I think it goes into mental health or mental illness as the book goes on. But in the beginning, she's like a very hard person to get along with, the narrator is. And she has a husband who she has known for a long time, and they're breaking up. And I wasn't connecting with it, but I'm going to try to give it the old college try, because these are really the only two books. I think there was one more that I felt that I could read from the woman's long list. Okay, so what else am I reading? Well, now we're going into something that I have to read again, because I flew through this book and I don't consider it a read. It's Things I Don't Want to Know by Deborah Levy, or Deborah Levy. I'm not sure how she pronounces it. Coincidentally, my eldest daughter is Deborah, and that's how she pronounces it, or we pronounced it. So what is Things I Don't Want to Know? It's a memoir, an answer to a feminist response to Orwell's Why I Write. And I have to say that I'm jealous of her writing. It's so beautiful. She has written a trilogy of memoirs, and I'm attempting to do the same thing, but there's no way that I can do justice in such a short book. Maybe that's why she has 3. But it's beautifully written, and I have to read this over, make notes. Not that that her writing is anything close to mine, but just because it's just perfect as a memoir. So I predict that I'm giving this 5 stars, even though I kind of read it, but it was a little bit too literary for me to read through that fast, so I'm going to read it again. Okay, so that's what I sort of read. Now we come to March Mystery Madness. And I've only read one book, and must be a reread must have read it 4 times. And it's Peril at End House. And when I read it, I knew who the culprit was, so it wasn't that exciting for me on the 3rd read. But basically, it's about a young girl, maybe in the 30s, who has attempts on her life, and she luckily meets Hercule Poirot, and he tries to tell her that this is serious, and she doesn't want to believe him because she's young, and the young people of the time, of any time, aren't listening, as Hercule Poirot says. This is a great book, especially if you haven't read it before. But if you've read it before, well, I don't want to spoil it, so I won't say anything. So I would give it 4 stars. The next book for March Mystery Madness is one I'm reading slowly, which isn't a good sign for me with mysteries. But I'm not saying I hate it, not at all. It's Louise Penny, Kingdom of the Blind. And I talked about this the last time. This is part of the Three Pines Armand Gamache series. And I think his son-in-law is Bouvier, but I'm not sure how to pronounce the name. But anyway, it has a lot of different stories, and I think that she's trying to do too much in this book. I liked one of the storylines, and the other one was a storyline I remembered from another book that they hadn't finished yet, and I'm less invested in that storyline. But the storyline that I liked that is new is that Armand Gamache and another Mona, who's another character from Three Pines, the little made-up village in Quebec, receive a letter that they were named as, I don't know what you call it. They're gonna help somebody read the will or take care of that, and from there, mayhem and murder ensues. What I like about the novel is that Louise Penny is a very creative writer, and she puts a lot of poetry in her writing, a lot of creative, artistry, but she tries to do too much, like I said. And I read a chapter every night. It's not making me say I want to DNF it, but it's also not making me say this is a 5-star read. And the characters in Three Pine, in the beginning of the series, and this is a long series, and she's still writing it, and this was a few years ago, I had stopped reading her series with a book that, as you usually go through a series, and I don't read many series, but you always come to a point where you don't like a book, and then you kind of put it down. And I picked it up, and still the same storyline is kind of going on, so I'm a little bit annoyed at that. And some of the characters are becoming caricatures, which, in Three Pines. But still, it's an interesting book, well-told story, and I'm sure the mystery, the ending is going to be, it's going to tie up all the loose ends, which I appreciate. So that's a book that I'm almost finished with. So I'm not going to say what is going to be the final outcome of that. I'm going to read Agatha Christie, Endless Night, with Brian at Bookish, and I'm excited because it's our first buddy read together. And one thing I liked about this book is that I didn't really remember a lot. I was going to read the first chapter last night, but I was still tired from my surgery. But what is it about? Okay, first it says, a wickedly ingenuous murder mystery. And I said the last time that Agatha Christie considered this one of her better or best novels. So that's enough for me to want to read it. I trust her. Michael Rogers dreamed of a perfectly designed house and a rich, beautiful wife. He found the girl and he built the house. But it was at Gypsy Acre, and a place with a curse on it, where sudden death had already struck more than once. So they call Romani people gypsies, and this was a long time ago. But I really I'm enjoying reading the first chapter. It seems to be very dense, so I want to start it again while I'm, I was all like, they put so many drops in my eyes, and, I was kind of out of it yesterday. But I want to say one more thing. The crashing, horrific surprise is perhaps the most devastating that Agatha Christie has ever brought off. Now, if you read and then there were none, and they're saying this about it, that it might be better than and there were none. I suggest you read this book, and I'm looking forward to it. Okay, so that's all I'm reading for March Mystery Madness. And then for Irish Readathon, I started getting to the end of it, which is the third in the trilogy, Girls in Their Wedded Bliss, by Edna O'Brien. And I'm loving it. I read, before my surgery, I read the first 2 pages, and I was like, I wish I could read it right now, but my eyes weren't allowing it. It's really nice. It's told in, I think it's alternating voices, which is not the case of the first 2 trilogies, told in Kate's voice. This is told in Baba's voice, her frenemy, I call her. And it's just marvelous. I mean, but it doesn't stay in her voice. So that's good too. And I was going to go on with it, but I wanted to wait until I could really, appreciate it, because I'm reading it with Alba. And let me get to the first page, because I have to read you this. It's so funny. Okay, here I am. And I read the first paragraph the last time. I'll read it really fast. Not long ago, Kate Brady and I were having a few gloomy gin fizzes in London, bemoaning the fact that nothing would ever improve, that we died the way we were, enough to eat, married, dissatisfied. Beautiful beginning. We've always been friends. As kids in Ireland, we slept together, and I used to push her out of bed on purpose, hoping she'd crack her head or something. I liked her and all that. I was as jealous of hell, of course. But she was too sedate and good. You know, that useless kind of goodness, asking people how they were and how their parents are. I mean, can you resist this? I know I can't, and I'm excited. Okay, so that's Girls in Their Married Bliss from Country Girls, Edna O'Brien. Then, as if that isn't enough, thanks to Gina Stanier, or Stanier, excuse me if I mispronounced your name, my good friend on another booktuber on YouTube, who I absolutely adore, and who shouted me out, and I appreciate it. I love you, Gina. I picked up from my library Winter Solstice by Rosamunde Pilcher. You might think, this is quite the tome. Maybe you should use it for March of the Tomes? No, that doesn't sound. March of the Mammoths. But no, it's not that big. I got it for large print. I got it in large print from my library. And from the first sentence, I know not only will I not be able to finish this with all that I have, but that I want to own a copy. So let me just read you what made me want to buy this book. And it says Elfrida. Before Elfrida Phipps left London for good and moved to the country, she made a trip to Battersea Dogs Home and returned with a canine companion. I mean, this is a feel-good book. I can just, I read a little bit of it, of the first chapter, and I love it. It's about a woman who's 60. She retires to a small village, and I think this book has found family in it, which I just became aware of since joining BookTube, what found family means. But I think I know what it means because in my life I've always had found family. Anyway, I also have a few books on my Kindle, and I'll tell you about those later because I didn't want to make this video too long. So, I can see now. I can't tell you how excited I am. We take a lot of things for granted in our life, and one of them is being able to see. And this doctor, I said he saved my sight twice, and I can't thank him enough. And who was guiding his hands. Let's just say that. Anyway, I'm just so happy to be back reading and to be participating in all these readathons. I want you to comment below. I'm sorry that I sang. I know that that might not be welcome to all, but I just have to burst out in song because I'm so happy. So until we meet, my friends, again very soon, because I'm going to read all of this, I bid you aloha.